Are you waving in?
The message is up that the meeting is now streaming. Are y'all ready? Or are we still waiting?
No,
We're
it
still
takes a few
waiting.
minutes. It takes a few minutes to get it on. Now that it's streaming, we got a URL, and then we have to post the URL to the website. It's a 3-step process. I can't.
I just sent it to you, Tracy. It pulled
Yep,
up a little
it
different. So let me know if it works.
Okay. Yes, I was just able to put, it's saying Zoom admin though.
Are they ready to go?
That's it.
You guys might want to do a roll call, just for record's sake.
Ms. Brunson, we have it up and running. Would you like the board or one of our staff to call a roll call of all the members present?
Certainly.
Olivia, can you do that?
I got it.
Thank you, Jacinta.
Gotta give me 1 second to pull them up. Hold on a sec. Gay, Brunson,
Yes.
Yolanda Bennett,
Yes.
Richard Bridges,
Yes.
Larry Broussard,
Yes, present.
Angela Foley,
Yes, present.
Beverly Ogden, Belinda Corman,
Yes, present.
Madeline Rito,
Present.
Michelle Warner, Ashley Ware, okay. Yeah, you have a quorum.
So Gay, were there two
Gay,
members that were?
you're muted, Gay.
Just let Beverly Ogden in for records.
Hey, Dr. Ogden.
Hold on.
We're going to call the meeting to order at 5:07 PM by Zoom. Public comment can be made at publiccomment@lsbme.la.gov. We will read comment when they are received. Angela, you had a question?
I was wondering which members were not here. Was it just Ashley? Was she the only one who's not here?
I think so now that, I think so.
Beverly, now that Beverly joined?
Jessica is not
Okay.
here.
On Jessica.
Oh, Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica.
She was
Okay.
going to try to come later though,
She's
I
gonna
thought.
try and join later.
Okay.
The first thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the meeting on October 27th of 2022. They were sent to us in an email. If y'all would, be sure and include my work email on that group. It used to be on there, but for some reason it's not now. And that's gaye.brunson@reevesmemorial.com.
I put it on the messages that I send in the distribution list. It's on there. It was always on there. So I don't know. Maybe the board didn't have it, but I had it.
I used to get it. I don't know. I
So you're
just
not getting notices of the meeting on your work email? I don't know.
No, they come
Okay.
on my personal email, and we're not supposed to check personal email on work computers.
Right. Well.
But anyway,
to-
I have
was on-
text. I can text y'all and tell you to send me a link.
Okay.
Has everyone read the minutes? If so, we entertain a motion and second to approve those minutes if there's no discussion.
Larry, I move we approve the minutes.
I've got a
see.
motion by Larry, a second by
Yolanda.
Yolanda. All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 27th, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That leaves us 3 things left on the agenda. Do we have to do them in the order that they're on
I
the
don't-
agenda?
I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't know if it mattered because it's gonna be like number 4 is gonna end up getting pulled into number 2 probably. But the next item on the agenda is rules and regulations review and update. Provisions for license reinstatement. I don't know why
We're
that,
gonna pass. Am I on mute? Oh, are we
Wait.
muted?
you're not,
Wait,
you're good.
Okay, they called, that was a request by the analysts because they're confused about how to handle people with reinstatements that have been out for a period of time, but they said they were gonna put it all in a message so I could convey everything, all of their concerns to the committee, and they told me to hold on it and we do it next time.
Okay. So then we need to be reviewing our rules and regulations for what changes. Everyone should have, in the time between our 2 meetings, had a chance to look at the law and look at the rules with the recommended changes and compare them. I don't know how y'all want to break that down.
Looks like.
What had the lawyers told us last time, that this was a one and done? They weren't gonna look at it and let it come back to us?
No, ma'am. We were under the impression that you had finished your requests for revision of the rules. We are now going to have our Miss Wilton go through the law with those revisions to the rules and find out what has to be changed in the law, so that I'll try and get on the agenda for this session coming up to change those laws to reflect what you want to put in the rules. And that way we can have the rules conform to the law instead of the law conform to the rules. So that's where we are. Now, if you want to make more changes to the rules, certainly that's something you can do. But Ms. Wilton will be doing that because we have to, when you finish with what you want the rules to look like, then we'll go ahead and make the additional recommendations for law changes and to the board, and we'll get that moving.
Okay, well, y'all, were we through with the rules as we approved them in concept last time, or were there more changes and discussion that need to be made on those? Angela, where are we on that?
Well, it was my understanding that members of the committee asked for a cleaned up copy, which I sent everyone a copy with all of the changes accepted. And then I also sent the original rules with all of the tracked changes. I didn't send everybody the law, but I did tell them that it was, maybe I sent a link to the law on the LSBMA website. I think I sent everybody a link to the law if they wanted to go back and, review the law from which these rules were written, so, and there is one highlighted change, I guess. Can I share my screen?
It's okay with me if they'll enable you.
Is Jacinta or Olivia?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Can
give
they
it,
kick-
just give me 1 second.
Okay. There was only one additional highlighted change. That the committee actually, we just kind of cleaned up the language a little bit because it didn't include it didn't include a provision for the categorical for licensure reinstatement after a license was lapsed. It talked about the MLS and the MLT, but it didn't talk about, it didn't address what a categorical would have to do. So if I can share my screen, I'll show it to y'all. Okay, I can now. No, it's not here. This one. Okay. So, this was it right here. So this is under returning practitioners or reinstatement of a lapsed license. And it says for MLS, MLT, or cytologist licenses, retraining requires a minimum of 3 months of full-time supervised training. For MLS and MLT, the 3 months include 3 weeks of full-time supervised retraining in each, or 3 weeks, I'm sorry, in each of the disciplines, right? The 4 major areas of the lab. And then it says to practice in a single category as an MLSC. So this takes care. You know what? We have to add in categorical up here. You see, every time we see these, it must have gotten left out when MLS. See, okay. Or cytologist. So then it says to practice in a single category as an MLSC, a maximum of 3 weeks of supervised retraining or minimum is required in that category. So, if you're going to retrain as a categorical in micro, you would just do the 3 weeks in micro. And then, well, the cytologist,
The cytologist is 3 months. It's up there in the top. Look at the beginning.
a minimum of 3 months, right?
3
So
months
for a
for
cytologist, they have to do 3 months. For the MLS and MLT, they have to do 3 weeks in each of the different areas of the laboratory.
Totaling 3 months.
Yeah, that would, well, it would 3 weeks.
Times 4 is 3 months.
Okay. And then for the categorical, they would just have to do the 3 weeks in that one area. So this, we never really voted on that language exactly. Just when I was reviewing it, it wasn't
We left
quite,
that in.
yeah, we had left out the categorical.
Angela, this is Alexa. Was the categorical left out of the first sentence because they're not doing 3 months of full-time supervised training?
Well, maybe that's it.
That's probably why.
Yeah, I think that was probably intentional, not oversight.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, thank you.
Yeah, that's
You
correct.
see, oh my goodness. Okay, you're right. I thought we had it right.
Yeah. Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you, Alexa. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all can digest that. Other than that, you know, these are all the rule changes that, we have already approved.
So, Patsy had said that the, analysts were asking about the provisions for licensure reinstatement. Are our rules, as we have approved and discussed them thus far, are they sufficient to help them? Would they be able to read our rules and figure out what they're supposed to do?
Well, I think that what we're going to have to do is find out what their concerns are, and they've not been expressed to me. Miss Pat and I and Patsy will sit down with them, find out what they are, and then confect the rules to reflect what they want and you want together.
Okay.
Okay,
But
So-
understand, we will not put these rules in APA format until we change the law to reflect what you want. Because if we don't change the law, some of these rules or changes will not be
Oh.
able to be adopted.
right,
Right.
all righty. So is there any more discussion on the rules? Is there anything else that needs to be changed? I thought we had
have a question.
already approved all the way through,
Except for that part. We
except for
just
that
went through.
section.
Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead, who is this?
This is Jim Taylor.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious as to the selection of 3 weeks and 3 months. In case this question comes up, why that time frame? Is there a best practice or body of knowledge that says this is the amount of time for retraining? How do we come up with those numbers for time to retrain?
Isn't that clear?
It is.
I think the national government's who told us that in the clear
Okay.
regs.
Yeah, there are timeline. They do have the 3 months training in the CLIA requirements for testing personnel for high complexity.
Okay, good. So we drew these down from national guidelines.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anybody else? If there's no more recommendations, sorry, then we would, we will mute our phone. Hold on.
Do that then.
We will, entertain a motion to accept the rules in total in concept with the changes that Angela has presented tonight.
I mean, I'll make a motion.
This is Beverly. I move to accept the changes proposed.
The motion by Beverly,
I
Second.
second.
Angela.
Yes.
All righty, all those in favor of accepting the rules as discussed tonight in concept to be presented to the lawyers to review, vote aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. I think at this point, I would like to jump down to the number 4, the state licensure for the pathologist assistant, because that's going to affect the rules that we just discussed on the backside. Everyone was in the information that was emailed to us at the very, very end of the document is an email that I received from Corey Caraway, that's a pathologist assistant, requesting that we consider, somebody's microphone is really rubbing. Asking that we include pathologist assistants in our licensure law. Dr. Ogden, I know you're our
When we had this
pathologist here.
Discussion before, we just said, it's a lot of trouble to do it. I mean, I guess now that we're redoing the thing, maybe it's the time to do it, but, we've been knowing it's out there.
And they do high complexity testing.
They do autopsies, because that's as complex as it can get, I guess.
Well, I think in the letter that Corey sent, they divided up. Some of the tasks that they do are not high complexity, and some are. And according to Corey, there is only one certification. And they were asking to specifically list that as the only certification agency. I don't know that the law would want to do that.
Well, because right now there's only one.
That's
but-
what they say.
Yeah, so then I guess we would have to, I don't know. I guess you would lock that in then if they wanted to do that, but how do you know something else isn't gonna come up? But
Right. I mean, it seems like some of the wording on our other areas, I would think that it would fit them by saying that it a nationally accredited agency approved by the board.
I think that would be fine.
Beverly, do you anticipate any opposition from any group to licensure for pathology?
I do. Because
Well, okay.
I do think there will be some, because there's some areas where I think it's the right thing to do. But I think there's some areas where they have people who aren't pathologist assistants who help do the grossing in places. Now, not that I think that's the right thing to do, but sort of a grandfather thing has been going on for a while.
Well, so the pathologists that these people are working for, you think might object to including them in our licensure law?
They would object to making that they have to have a license to do the job of a pathologist assistant.
They are recommending having a grandfather clause in it. So
Okay, that
it
may
seems
solve
like,
that. I think that would solve it then.
yeah, it
Because
would be.
it-
No. No, it only solves it for those people. But going forward, if they want to continue to hire
No, I
people
think
who are
so.
not,
No, I think that's kind of a discouraged thing. I would think it'd be okay. Because there are things that limited people can do under CLIA and under CAP. People can help a pathologist if they don't manipulate the specimen. There are things that people can assist them, but people that aren't trained to do like a gallbladder resection or a breast resection, they really shouldn't be doing it. So I think if you've given the grant,
but what they really, we don't think people who perform laboratory tests shouldn't be licensed, but we're only 12 states that have, it doesn't matter what we think should be done. It's what opposition you're going
I can
to
find out. I
encounter.
don't know if we have to make a decision tonight, but I can make some calls tomorrow and for key people that I know that utilize people for pathologist assistant and just see what the feel is. So,
I mean, I think it's good to know what your, what kind of a hornet's nest you might be stirring and what opposition you might incur. Dr.
Well-
Van, would you like to weigh in on this? How do you feel?
Well, first of all, the board is going to have to get a recommendation from you all to consider designing a class of license and going to the legislature to get that approved. And I think it would want your input and approval to do so. If we don't get it, I don't think we're going to do it. I do think that this gentleman who I spoke to wants to work with us. And I made it clear to him that unfortunately this next session is a financial only session. And it will be very hard to find somebody to carry a bill at this late date. And he said he understood, but he wants to continue with the press on. So I think if you want to wait until, I'd like to have an answer from you all by January 1st. So if I can see if I can find somebody who would carry a non-fiscal bill to do this.
And
But,
also, Dr. Collada, I have one of our pathologist assistants who had done some initial work for us, and we've done this in the past. Greg Richard, he would be willing to help as well.
So he's a representative?
No. He would help Corey. He would help
He's a
get the
pathology
stuff done on the
assistant.
pathology assistant side.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine in terms of designing, but we would have to get, that's a few steps away from having you all recommend to the board that you design a new licensing class to address the pathology assistant, which would be a mandatory requirement to function as a pathology assistant in all hospitals in the state.
Well, I think I need to do homework and get back to you all and survey the people I know and just see what the going opinions are. Like if we grandfather, is everybody okay? If we do this with a grandfather clause, would they be okay? And I'll let you know.
Okay.
But remember, and when we design those kind of grandfather clauses, we usually give a sunset date. So usually it's the first year after the law is passed, they have to get licensed. And then if they wait 375 days, they won't be able to get licensed at that point. It would be this one time, one and done kind of a thing.
They won't be able to get a license because the license requires 2 years of official training. There's no way around it. You have to go to an accredited school. It takes 2 years. So no one, on the grandfather clause, they won't be able to just go, oh, I'll sit for these boards. It's not like that. You have to officially be trained at an accredited program.
So that's what I'm saying. It sounds like the original concept of grandfathering was anybody who's working in the field could get a license. That's not what you want then. Is that correct?
Well, they won't be able to do that. I thought it was grandfather would let the ones that have been doing it continue to do it, but if that's not true.
They would
That's
continue.
what I
That is
thought.
true.
That's what grandfather is.
If they're doing it,
But they still have to apply, as Dr. Van's saying, if they're working and they want to continue to work, they have 1 year to apply for their license. If they don't, then the grandfather no longer applies.
Okay, so it's really that's not gonna be beneficial then. So we're just gonna see how everybody feels. And I don't know how many are still in the practice or how old these people are that have been doing it forever. Let me just get a feel for the situation.
Oh,
No
you
problem.
think they, yeah, okay.
I was gonna say, just because they are working in a pathologist assistant capacity at this moment in time, maybe what they're really doing is just like a growth tech.
Yeah, I
Like,
thought
their title could be changed, because I know we have pathologist assistants, and then we have like gross room technicians, so.
yeah, and they're very limited on what they can do. I think there are some
Right.
people out there that do more than than a gross tech.
Hmm.
So I just have to find out how big of a problem that's gonna be, and I can make like 3 or 4 phone calls and I'll be able to tell you the answer.
well, the other thing I would just hear, what I'm hearing is maybe we want two licenses coming up then, a gross tech license and a pathology assistant license. Is that what you're seeking?
So, I don't think you need a license for the gross tech. A lot of times, sometimes the histotech that's already doing some stuff. And the gross tech usually takes the specimen, does not manipulate it, just puts it in a cassette and prepares it, which a histotech does already anyway. So I'll get a feel for what the gross techs are doing. There's really not a market. There's not gonna be a lot of people that are gross tech. I don't know that's worth making a licensure for that. I will find out what everybody wants.
I want to weigh in a little bit on this because they did have some of the conversation we had in a previous meeting about this. And I mean, our conversation was a little looser, and I mean, I didn't have a prepared response or anything. And I think it does probably garner a little bit more of a response. From a CLIA perspective, pathology assistants are certainly qualified and are performing high complexity laboratory testing in the state right now, which means they're practicing clinical laboratory science, which is under, what requires a license in Louisiana. But as you guys have already started discussing and kind of covered from a licensure and board perspective, their scope of practice is beyond the few high complexity tests that they're performing. They're they do more than just practice clinical laboratory science. So I don't know if you would capture that entire scope as a clinical laboratory personnel, like under ours, much like pathology assistants are their, I mean, physician assistants are their own line of license in the state. I mean, they're currently practicing clinical laboratory science and performing high complexity testing in the state right now. Pathology assistants are. They're listed on CLIA personnel records as testing personnel. But unlike every other testing personnel that we're looking at, there isn't a license for them. So they really are not following what we're expecting for licensure requirements for anyone else performing high complexity laboratory testing in the state. And I say that with like an asterisk of, I know they're doing more than just that. So I don't know if categorizing them under clinical laboratory personnel as a license or their own line of licensure would be appropriate. That's more, a licensure board perspective. From our perspective, it would make sense for them to be licensed since they're performing high complexity testing and practicing clinical laboratory science, where we require a license for every other person doing that in the state.
Well, and when Greg did his work up, we can find out the states that have licensed them. We can find out how they did it. Was it just under the laboratory science or how other states have licensed them? I can do that homework as well.
Yeah, definitely don't reinvent the wheel there, because there are states that their pathology assistants are licensed.
Right. So we will gather that homework as well for this committee.
So Alexa, what you're actually thinking is instead of being amended into our clinical lab personnel, they have their own separate license.
I mean, I don't know everything that pathology assistants are doing in the state. Dr. Ogden, Michelle possibly would probably have way more insight to that. But my understanding is their scope is larger than practicing clinical laboratory science, which if they're under a clinical laboratory personnel license, that's the only thing that it captured is practicing clinical laboratory science.
So if they're going to get licensed, be licensed for their total job.
I would think they probably want that as well.
I'm gonna find out what other states are doing. Ours mostly do sequencing and autopsies. That's it for us. Some of them supervise histology lab. Outside of that, I don't know what outside of the scope they would be doing, but I think seeing what the other states have done may be very helpful.
They supervise pathology labs?
Histotech.
Oh,
No,
histotech. Okay, I missed that.
Histology
Histo lab.
Histology lab.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Histology. Okay.
Well, Beverly, if you
I
would
think,
share that data with us at the board as you collect it, we can work with you to figure out what's the best way to do it, and we can
Okay.
present it at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds great.
I
Thank you, Dr. Ogden.
understand why they,
Am I, you
I
can
think
you
it's the right
talk?
thing to do.
I
I think it's the right thing to do.
Go ahead.
I understand why they want to attach to our law, because it's very difficult to get any licensure law through any legislature in this country. So I do understand that their road to licensure probably would be easier and faster if they were a category of our licensure law. But like you say, I don't know about what the other things they do.
Yeah, and I'll have to check the scope of
How
practice.
that would fit.
RPAs would not have anything outside the laboratory scope of practice, so I can survey that as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Because it'll be easier.
Okay, so we'll
Go
so,
ahead.
So Dr. Ogden is going to gather information and forward that to Dr. Van and the board.
And to Patsy.
Okay, great.
And we'll have some suggestions for you at the next meeting.
Okay. I'm kind of jumping back just a little bit when we were given the law to review it for item number 2. Do we have a laboratory assistant on our board?
Yes, Ashley, Ware.
I don't think her license is a lab assistant.
She's in the lab assistant position. She has an AAB license, certification, and she should be a lab assistant.
I think she's a generalist.
Well,
This might be a discussion for another time.
that's who AAB recommended, and that's who got put in that position.
Okay.
So I, as far as her license, I agree. She should be a lab assistant. That person
I
should be
didn't
a lab
know.
assistant.
When I was going down through the list of the folks, I didn't know how stickler and enforced that part was.
Right.
But anyway,
That's a good point.
it was just a question. All right.
Does anyone know if AAB has a lab assistant certification exam? Do they? I was just wondering, maybe she was an AAB certified lab assistant and then went on to take
And then
the
changed her.
MLT
Maybe so.
license, but she has that in her history. I kind of think that might be it, but I'm not 100% sure.
That makes sense. The next thing on our agenda is the continuing education contract. That's also in the information that was sent to us. Has
So,
everyone reviewed that?
this is Mary Payton. I'm here.
Was it attached to the
Yeah.
agenda?
Yes, ma'am. It is in the agenda. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay.
I was just saying, I just have, if anybody has any questions.
So my only question with that was, it appears that it got copied into the agenda in kind of a crazy order. Am I right, or are there more pages to it?
It looks
I'm
like it
not
was
seeing
done
the agenda
twice.
right now.
Well, they appear to be like out of order, and it's just a little weird.
Yeah, it's out of order.
They should be numbered at the bottom, if that helps.
That's what I was wanting to make sure of, is this just should be total of 8 pages, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So like I mentioned in the previous meeting, LSU took a look at the attendance that they were getting and over the COVID last 2 years, and realized that attendance was really going up a lot with regard to having remote programs, and that people found it so much easier to attend those. So much so that they recommended that we go completely remote, and that they would also be establishing kind of a bank of programs that could be accessed at will, which I think is also really nice. And that the cost of doing so would be actually less. Originally, the contract for like the last 2 years or so was around a $91,000 contract, $91,268 to be exact. And they feel like they can, by going remote and offering this bank of classes, that they can do the contract for less, for the $79,838 that the contract in front of you lists. And I know there's a lot of legalese in it, but basically the two main features for consideration of what they're going to be providing can be found on pages 2 and 3 in the numbered items. And then the very last page, which I guess won't be the last page, but it should be page 8. Melissa, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Oh yeah, I'm talking to myself, page 8.
Okay, sorry.
I have a question. Do the cytotechnologists have a specific continuing education that they do? Or are they just whatever LSU presents is what they take for their license?
Oh no, we use glass slide sets from CAP.
Because it looks like the law says that the committee will see to it that we provide licensure for all. I mean, that we provide continuing education for all the licensure that falls within our group.
So that could fall under topic selection in terms of if we wanted specific topics. That could be, I think, referred to them so that they understand additional topics need to be done.
I think I would get my feelings hurt if I was a cytotech and my money was going to pay for continuing education that didn't apply to me when the law said it would.
I wonder if PACE approved credits are acceptable for cytologists.
All right.
They would be for their license.
If they're getting them through CAP, all of those, or most all of those are PACE approved.
Yes.
Okay.
I could ask some of my cytotechs that are part of that continuing that the maintenance program licensure. I'm not part of it, so the only continuing education I need is for Louisiana. But I think they can.
And how do you get your CE for your Louisiana license?
Through CAP.
And y'all have to pay for that.
Do you have to?
Yes, they do. The organization pays for it.
Well, like I said, it looks to me like the law says that we, the committee, are responsible for providing this continuing education at no cost to all of the classifications. If that's the case, we need to take care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's never come up before.
Well, I know Rita has done some. I know Rita did them for us.
I was going to say, I thought Joni was on the call.
Excuse me?
I thought Joni was on the call, Mercado, who works on these, on this particular management of these series of programs for us. But certainly that's something that we can specify if that's what we want.
But am I reading the law wrong? I mean, there's
no, I mean,
no, it just says
you know,
provided for CLPs, period. So
yeah. Well, there are a lot of general topics that really apply to everybody.
And
so,
we accept them when they renew their license, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As long as they're able to get all they need to meet the licensure requirement with what's provided, then that's fine.
She's talking about for her continuing maintenance, for her certification, that they probably require more specific, CE. And then she can use that for her license, but she could also use what we provide.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I read the contract correctly, is it a total of 24 hours that LSU will be offering? Or 16 with 8 of them being at each facility?
right, I believe it's 16 with 8 at each facility.
So it's 16. Thank you.
Do it remotely by Zoom or Teams, whatever LSU uses.
Did y'all have any other questions, or did you want to take a vote? This would be basically a motion to recommend approval to the board.
What about Part D, the monitoring program that says the chairperson of this committee is going to review this?
Yes, that is something that is in the contract, and if you look at the very bottom, they have to provide the content no less than 3 weeks before the presentation.
Okay. If I'm gonna be responsible for reviewing something, I need to see them. I mean, give them my email.
Yeah.
They are to email it to the person at the board that is the notification person, which is Jacinta, and then she would get it to you.
Okay, is this something new in this contract?
Nope.
It's been there every year?
Yep.
I did not do that. We've never done that. Not when I was a chair, you was a chair. It's supposed to go to the chair for approval? It sounds like it.
And we have every year gotten copies of the productivity, the products, basically all the deliverables after the fact with records of registration, all program materials, program completion, the number of attendees, any evaluations done. They provide that about mid-year, and that's it's supposed to be provided on or before June 1st.
Okay, did I also read in there that this contract will be, they will send these certificates of attendance to CE Broker for the people that attend?
They are to provide,
Do
they
what?
provide the certificates, and I have to say, I'm not sure how that works with CE Broker. Dr. Van, are you aware of whether or not it goes from the entity to CE Broker, or whether it's the licensee's responsibility?
It can
No,
be
it's
either.
automatic.
If many of the courses taught at LSU are sent directly from LSU to CE Broker. Patsy, you can comment if the lab has been doing that, but that is one way.
Yes, all of them.
And then
All
the
of
other
them are
way is
sent
you can,
in.
and then the other way is you can take the course anywhere, take your certificate and either turn into a PDF file and send it to CE Broker with the submission questions, or you can take a picture of it, answer the submission questions, and upload the picture.
I know I did. They have to provide certificates of completion and attendance for all who enroll and complete the program.
Okay, so their contract doesn't have them sending it to CE Broker for the attendees.
No, because I imagine, some of them may want it for other reasons as well, so they need a separate certificate. So that's number 11.
Okay.
He gives them.
So, but if they attend the CE session and they're licensed in Louisiana, it will confirmation of their attendance will automatically be sent to CE Broker.
Great.
I'm not sure what happens about certificates. When we weren't doing it virtually, everybody got a stamped and signed certificate, of attendance. I'm not sure what's happening now with certificates.
I think with CE Broker, you can get a transcript of what you have done through CE Broker. And that transcript could then be sent to ASCP for continuing maintenance if you need it. That's the way I think it works, but I'm not in charge of that, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it works.
If I may interject, there you can do just what Patsy said and send that to any other agency with a transcript from CE Broker. The other option is, and we didn't talk about, is you can get a transcript from LSU to send to CE Broker, and they will accept that if you took all those courses and they didn't transmit it electronically. So there are any number of ways to get data in and out of CE Broker. That's its real versatility to the end user.
Oh, I agree. And I don't know how many of y'all have already renewed, but it was less than 3 minutes after I put
It was so easy. Huh?
Yeah. It was verified very fast. Any other questions or discussion on this contract? This will be for the next year, beginning in January.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, would anyone like to make a motion for the committee to recommend this contract to the board? Is that worded correctly, Mary?
That is correct. Thank you.
I'd like to recommend that the contract be sent to the board as presented.
That was a motion made by Michelle. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Snadlin?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor of sending this, recommending this contract, to the board, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
But there had been some questions last year regarding about when the renewal, when does the board start accepting applicants for this contract?
Well, if you want, here's how it would work. If the entity is already on state contract, it's a different process than if they have not had a previous encounter on the state contracting rolls. If they are not on the state contracting rolls, they have to go through a bid process. Okay, so that takes a lot longer. But if they already have a contract with the state to provide similar services, it will be less time. But again, if you want to start looking for another vendor for next year, tell them to get started now, to let us know that they want to do it, so we can give them the advice to make sure that we don't cause any undue delay.
And when we say next year, we really mean 2024. If you want a new 2024, start in January of 2023 at the latest.
I thought at our last meeting, the discussion was that we needed to set the guidelines for the bid contract.
That is true if you want someone that is not, for instance, a public entity, that a public university that the state will allow us to contract with without a bid process, or is not someone who already has a state contract who could provide this, which I'm not sure that exists, frankly. But if they're neither a public entity nor someone that's already got a state contract in place to do this type of work, then yes, we would need to start looking at the criteria for a bid, which is why you have to start so early.
But again, until we find out who or if there's going to be any bidders and where they fit, are they a state university that can do this without a bid, or are they already doing it like LSU is already doing it, and all of those things, it's going to be hard to tell you what you have to do.
All right.
But if someone is okay, go ahead. Okay. Just said if someone is a state university, then, and they wanted to submit a proposal, they can do it. Is that right? Without it going through a bid process?
Mary, Scott, yes.
Yes. The key with LSU, and the reason it doesn't have to go through a bid process, is because they're a state entity.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Okay, so Dr. Van, if somebody other than a state agency is wanting to do a bid process, I think it would be good if we gave them a deadline to state their intention.
Well, I mean, I can't make anybody do anything. I can tell you the earlier they start, the more likely they are to succeed. We can do again, but you know, I'm not sure that you want to go through the process of drafting a set of specs for a bid and not even have anybody who's going to bid.
Right. That's all I was saying is if somebody that is not a state agency is interested, they need to let us know soon. That's all.
The sooner the better for them.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if there's nothing else, we have made history.
History.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there?
You
any-
handle a good meeting, yeah.
You do. Well, we had no investigations too, so that.
Yeah,
was-
that helped.
That helped, right?
So, Dr. Van, will there be something coming back to us that we'll need to look at or discuss before the next legislative session?
I don't think so, but what I would do as a courtesy is I would, first of all, I don't recall having a motion to recommend that the board institute a law change in confluence in conforming to what we want the rules to look like. I'd like that, number one, that way we get everybody making the recommendation to the board. And number two, once we draft such a law, we'll be happy to send it to you all to take a look at. But it's really going to be, most of these are title and name changes more than anything else, because we've kind of reclassified some of the people from 19 years ago.
So the recommendation that was made on item 2 doesn't meet your.
I did not hear a vote and a motion. That's all I was saying. If
And
I'm wrong, please correct me.
the motion, can you read the motion and second?
The motion was made by Michelle
Beverly.
Werner to recommend the CE contract. Is that what you mean?
I think he's talking about the rules, item number 2. The motion.
Oh,
by
I'm
Dr.
sorry. Yes, it was a motion by Dr. Ogden to accept the rules revisions. And then it was seconded by Angela Foley, and we voted on it unanimously.
Wasn't the recommendation to accept them and refer them to the board?
I guess, maybe I left that out. To accept the rules revision and submit them to the board, right?
For a law change to conform with the proposed rule revisions.
Do we
Okay.
need to have Dr. Ogden amend her? I think that was the intent of her motion, but do we need to have it amended and voted on again?
Well, did she say that? And I just
I said
didn't,
that. I think I said that.
we'd have to go back and listen to the recording.
But I can.
Well,
make
that's
the
all I'm
motion.
asking. It would be cleaner if you would just do it again.
Okay, I'll do it
And that
again.
way you don't have to go back, because if you have to listen to the recording,
no,
we'll have
that's
to have
fine.
another meeting.
Okay, I recommend that we accept the revisions that we discussed tonight and submit them to the board for consideration.
For consideration of the law to be
For
modified.
consideration to change the effective statutes.
There you go. I like it. That's what I say.
Do we have a second?
Consideration.
Go ahead.
I'll second it. To change the affected statute.
Statute.
that
Statutes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I second it.
All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented by Dr. Ogden, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Thank you all for that housekeeping. I appreciate it. And thank you all for your work tonight again. As always, the board appreciates it.
All righty, guys, if there's nothing more, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
That's quick.
There
We have
was
a
Rick. I second it, Beverly.
And Beverly. All right, thank you, guys. So are we anticipating our next meeting will be next year?
When do you want to
Looks
set a
that
meeting?
way.
Oh,
First
What-
quarter? We want to set a meeting for January?
Probably if we're gonna be taking something to the legislature, yes.
The board won't meet again until until the last week of January. But you'll have time, if you have a January meeting, to look at what the proposed changes to the law will look like. But more importantly, I would urge you all to start thinking about setting a regular time for maybe quarterly meetings, and then you would only call special meetings. And that way everybody can look at their schedule way in advance and say, if we're gonna meet on the third Thursday of every month or the second Thursday of every month, or every quarter, the first Thursday of the
Quarter.
first month of every quarter,
Yeah.
then you'll know, and we'll have those days worked out for you way in advance.
Dr. Van,
We
I've
can
got
try
a
it.
question. Will the meetings be allowed to continue on Zoom, or was that
That
Oh,
was voted in. That
They
was- that was
changed the law.
We changed the law in 2022 so that these meetings will continue to be on Zoom or by other electronic means if we would have changed to Teams or whatever. They'll continue to be in this format.
that's so much
So,
fun.
so Dr. Van, now that we've approved the rules and that they should be submitted to the board for their review, to the lawyers for them to, work on the law to make it compatible, when would the earliest that might possibly be done?
I think we can probably have it done for the second week in January, if you want to take a meeting on the second Thursday of January.
That would be the 12th.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Well,
The second
technically the meeting
Thursday
is
of
ended.
January?
So is this
I
something?
know, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just maybe something that Jacinta could send out and get scheduled. That's all I'm saying.
That'd be January the 13th.
That's a Friday.
Oh, I looked at it wrong.
January.
Oh, I'm on the wrong. No, I'm sorry.
So you want
I'm on
January?
the big calendar usually it flips over to the next year and it didn't.
Okay, well, so the meeting is really adjourned, but, I guess we'll look at that as a possible date going forward.
Send
for our
it
next
out
meeting,
as
right?
Whatever the
going forward.
second.
Did we vote? I've gotten confused. Did we vote to adjourn?
Yes.
No,
we
you
did.
didn't. You did.
We did.
They certainly did.
All right.
I thought they did. Jacinta,
Oh.
do you have it?
Yes, they did.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. We'll send out a
Bye.
notice for that
Bye.
meeting on the 12th.
Well, have
Anybody
a
can
happy,
complain.
have a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.
Same to all of y'all. Best of the season.